Before you start watching, please help the channel thrive. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment if you relate to anything or want to dive into some topics together.
Please, for Mummy. I sobbed. I heard a growl, and I could only assume that it was Howard, who thought I had a baby with another man. The ambulance is here, Caroline. Honey, you need to move, Henry said softly, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. No, I can't leave her alone, I cried. I felt someone taking a crying Terence away from me and trying to calm him down. I lifted and hugged Samantha head and shoulder tightly. She was too hot, even for a werewolf. Mum, I need you to move, please. I need to check your daughter, the paramedic told me. My wolf was in extra protective mode after what had happened to Samantha, so she didn't want to budge. After explaining to her that if we didn't move, Samantha would get sicker, she reluctantly agreed to move away slightly, just so that the paramedic could check on her. We need to take her to the hospital. Her pulse is weak. Body temperature is too high, she said to her colleague. They both nodded and got a stretcher and placed my frail-looking baby on there. They put an oxygen mask over her mouth so that she could breathe. They brought her outside quickly, and I followed, while Max stayed behind to sort everything out. Some fans who were still around started whispering and pointing to my baby and myself. They got her into the ambulance with me in tow. I sat next to my baby, holding the hand whilst the sirens went off, and they drove through the roads to get to the local hospital. Once we got there, they brought her into the hospital. I sat in the waiting room, hugging my knees to my chest while silently sobbing. Minutes later, I was in the familiar warm embrace of Randy. How did he even know I was here? Probably Max. He whispered comforting words to me while I sobbed quietly, hoping that Samantha was okay. I had never felt so scared before. Never. If something happened to Samantha, I don't know what would happen to me. Caro, she's going to okay. Don't think otherwise. Samantha is a fighter, you know that, right? Randy said, rubbing my arms. She's stronger than you think she is. I hope you're all right, Randy, I whispered, sitting on the floor with my head on his chest. Oh, there she is, I heard someone say. Footsteps ran to us, and soon Henry was also hugging me. Mia kneeled down in front of me, and I could see that she didn't look any better herself, but she was trying to put on a brave face. When did I become so lucky and get such amazing people I could call family? Shh, she's a strong girl, you know that, right? Watch tomorrow, she's going to fighting with Terence again. Mia laughed quietly. Where's Terence? I asked, my voice sounding husky from crying. He's with Grace and Stella. He was tired and crying, so I thought that if one of them stayed behind, it'd be good for him to try and take his mind off of things, Mia said. Hey, do you want something to eat or drink? Henry asked, suddenly getting up. No need, we got you guys something to eat, a familiar voice said, which made my face pale. What are you doing here, you bastard? Henry shouted. I'm here for my sister, Chris said. I stopped being your sister the day I ran away, I replied. I never stopped being your brother, was all he said. I snorted. So brothers bully and torture their sisters with others now, do they? I regret every minute of doing what I did to you, he pleaded, with tears glistening in his eyes. He does, and so do I, another voice said. Howard, where's your mate? I sneered. She's with Issa at a hotel. She needed rest, he answered. So why are you here? Why don't you go back to her? Because I'm here with my beta and best friend who needs me. But Caroline, I truly am sorry for what we have done to you as a pack. We truly do regret it, he whispered the last part. I'm sure you do, I muttered sarcastically. Now that I have money and fame, everyone wants to be buddies with me. Howard was about to say something when Randy cut in. Look, whoever you guys are, stop stressing her out. She's in pain enough as it is already. If you guys can't be quiet, then you should just leave. They should leave. They're doing nothing but causing more pain to Caro, as if they haven't caused her some already, Henry said. They didn't say anything else, but just sat down on the chairs. About an hour later, the doctor finally came out to talk to us. I was the first one up, wanting to talk to the doctor to make sure nothing had happened to my baby. Doctor, what's wrong with her? I asked, angrily wiping away the tears, which never stopped flowing down my cheeks. Don't worry, it was a case of food poisoning. She should be better by tomorrow. She's sleeping now, but you can visit her if you wish, he said. Hugging him tight, I whispered, "Thank you so much for saving my baby." "Don't worry," he laughed, "she's a little fighter. She'll be better, and you take care." I nodded and went into Samantha's room, with the rest of them following behind. When I entered the room, I noticed that she was laying in the bed wearing a white robe with a needle stuck in her wrist, an IV machine beside her, and an oxygen mask in her face. She still looked a little pale, but better than before. I sat down on the bed and caressed her soft cheeks, while the rest of the guys made themselves comfortable on the chairs, apart from Chris and Howard, who seemed a little out of place. They knew that I'd be staying in this room until she returns home, so they were staying with me as well. They loved Samantha to bits as well, even Randy, who hardly got to spend any more time with her as he was always abroad. "You never told me that you have a daughter," Chris stated. I heard a small growl, most likely from Howard, but I couldn't be sure if I heard it or not. "Twins? I have twins, Terence and Samantha." "Who's the father?" Howard growled. I could tell his wolf was surfacing by his voice, but because my back was facing him, I couldn't tell if his eyes were flickering to grey or not, which was the colour of his wolf's eyes. Simply ignoring him, I continued gently rubbing Samantha's forehead. I said, "WHO is their father." Howard growled again. "Don't talk to her like that." Henry growled back. "It's okay, Henry." "Howard, let's take this conversation somewhere else. I don't want my baby to wake up," I said in a cold and emotionless voice. Howard stomped out, and I followed him outside the room. I closed the door and turned to him, with my arms crossed and a scowl on my face. "Why do you want to know anyways?" I asked. "You've got a mate, a child coming soon. So why the hell are you interested in who's the father of my twins, huh?" "Because I feel an unexplainable connection to those children. God damn it." He shouted in frustration. I knew I couldn't hold this off any longer. I knew this moment was to come someday, but I just hoped that it wasn't today. I was always going to tell my children about their father someday, because after all, it was their father, and if they wanted to be with their dad, I would let them. It wasn't up to me to decide whether I wanted the twins to know their dad or not, it was up to them. I took a deep breath and blurted out, "You." "What?" he asked in disbelief. His eyes were slightly widened, and shock was written all over his face. "The day we met." "In the janitor's closet," I simply stated. It took all I had to not burst into tears right now, and I think I was doing pretty well so far. That day was the worst day of my life, and remembering about me made me want to just wallow in self-pity, but at least good things came out of that. Like my babies, my career, my new family, and so many more things. "So, I am their father?" he asked slowly, as his brain processed the information. "No, you're their sperm donor." And with that, I turned around and walked back into the room, slamming the door in his face in the process. That felt good, I thought. Chapter 15. Howard's POV. I was their father. Those beautiful creatures were mine. I couldn't be happier, and my wolf was even more happier than me. "You should leave Eva now. Do you hear me?" my wolf said to me in a commanding tone. But I was angry that I wasn't there for the first sonogram, their first words, their first steps, and the list goes on. But I knew it was all my fault. And to be honest, I don't blame Caroline for any of it. I probably would have done the same thing if it was me, probably worse. I knew there was a reason that I felt such a connection to both of them. I felt like I had to protect them, which is why I came here in the first place. I didn't come here to support Chris or whatever. I came here because that little angel was sick. I just wanted to protect her. But the thing that baffles me is that I don't feel that same connection with Eva's baby. I know I should, but I don't. It couldn't be that the baby isn't mine, could it? Many people have told me that Eva has been cheating, but I chose to ignore everything because I actually thought that she loved me. But it looks like I'm wrong. With that, I ran outside the hospital and hopped into my car. I quickly drove to the hotel, which was nearby, thankfully. I ran up to our hotel room and as quickly as I could fumbled with the keys, trying to open door as quickly as possible. Once I opened it, I was stunned to see what I saw. It was Eva moaning underneath the bellboy we saw earlier, both stark naked. Loudly slamming the door shut, I gained both their attention. I watched as Eva's face changed from shock from seeing me to what she was trying to make it look, remorseful. I could see through her act clearly now. She and the guy both quickly broke apart and tried to reach out to get their clothes. As soon as he was fully dressed, the guy got up and ran out the door, and I did nothing to stop him. All I could think was, how could he fuck someone else's girl while she's pregnant? That was just plain disgusting, and I know that I was player before and I even fucked women twice my age, but never did I ever fuck a pregnant chick. My mind was blank and I don't know what her cheating on me made me feel like. But I think that was just because I knew deep down that she wouldn't stay faithful to me. I knew that all those times when my friends told me that she was cheating, she actually was, but I refused to believe it. To be honest though, I felt slightly betrayed, because I hadn't fucked anyone since I found out she was pregnant, yet here she was with a fucking bellboy. She really does sleep with everyone with a dick. After a few awkward moments, I casually leaned against the wall, not wanting to sit on the bed after I shuddered as I remembered that moment that, if she was going to cheat anyways, she could have at least had the decency to cheat with a good-looking guy. Seriously, that guy looked like a tramp, with his chipped yellow teeth and fat on his stomach. Hell, even his hair was greasy. A few more minutes passed when Eva finally started. Howard, I'm so sorry. You know how hormonal pregnant women get. I did it because it was my hormones, not me. Yeah, whatever. I snorted. Of course you were. Now if you haven't figured, we are over. And before you start with your sob story again, I want to know if the baby is mine or not, I said. What? Of course the baby is why. Interrupting her, I ordered in my alpha voice, which meant that she had no choice but to do as I say. You will tell me the truth. Is the baby mine or not? 9. She was in front of me now, desperately holding on to my hands. I guess I found out my answer already, but I wanted to hear it from her mouth. Is the baby mine or not? I shouted now. She flinched and shrunk down from my glare. No, she whimpered, and that was when I realized that I made the biggest mistake of my life by choosing Eva, a lying bitch, over Caroline, who loved me more than anything. Key word being loved. Chris's POV. After Caroline came into the room after her little conversation with Howard, she slammed the door in his face. I couldn't help but wonder what the conversation was about. The room was completely soundproof, so we couldn't hear what they were saying as no noise could get into the room from outside. Everything all right? One of her friends asked. Yeah, but it just gets so tiring. She sighed and sat down on the bed. Are you sure you don't want to go home? Me, Randy and Mia can look after her. We'll call you when she wakes up, Henry said, wrapping her arms around her shoulders. You've had a long day anyways, that guy, Randy added. No, I'm staying with my baby till she gets home, she mumbled. You're too stubborn, Henry said, ruffling her hair. She pushed his a little and pretended to glare at him. Don't touch the hair. Why, it doesn't matter anyways. You look like hell. Henry snickered and gave Randy a high five. Gee, I appreciate all the love, she muttered under her breath with sarcasm dripping off every word. We love you, Caro, Randy said, coming over to her and hugging her as well as Henry, while Mia chuckled at their childish behaviour. I could help but feel hurt at the fact that she had Henry as her big brother. So now she didn't need me anymore. I was so stupid back then. And I knew not sticking up for her would definitely be the biggest regret of my life. She had her perfect family, and I couldn't help but wish that I was part of that perfect life. I couldn't help but wish that I would be the one comforting her when her daughter, my niece, was taken to hospital. I just wished that I could be here for my baby sis. I couldn't bear to see her laughing and messing around with Henry and Randy, so I left, hoping and wishing that she's come home to see Mum before she died. I went straight to the hotel, which wasn't that far away. After searching for my car, I got into it and drove as quickly as I could to the hotel, while wiping away my tears of regret and sorrow, because I knew she would never be my sister again. Once I got to the hotel, I parked my car and ignored everyone else in the lobby. I went straight to my room, taking in deep breaths before I entered, because I knew that Issa would plenty of questions for me. When I opened the door, I went straight to the bed where Issa sat, pinching the bridge of her nose. Something she did when she was extremely frustrated or thinking deeply about something. Hey baby, I sat, sitting down next to her and taking her small hands into my big ones. "When were you going to tell me that you had a sister?" she asked. I sighed and closed my eyes. To be honest, I didn't know. I was hoping that one day she'd come back to us, and then I could introduce my mate to my sister. And why haven't I met her? Why did she leave? "Answer my questions, damn it," she shouted, standing up abruptly and started pacing. She was going to hate me, but I couldn't lie to her. Not after I'd promised her to never lie to her or hide anything from her. I took a deep breath and began my story. Caroline ran away about 5 years ago. She didn't have the best life here. She was bullied by the pack. Me, Mum, just everyone. Dad was the only one who was supporting her, but he passed away a long time ago. Caroline hadn't shifted when she left, so she was 16 then, when she was supposed to have shifted. So Dad asked to call her W worthless every day and B beat her. I wiped away the tears that had fallen from my eyes and stole a quick glance at her to see her reaction. Her face was emotionless, so I couldn't tell what she was thinking, and she'd blocked off her mind from me, so I wasn't able to sense her emotions. I continued anyways. Mom convinced me that she was weak, that she wasn't worth anything, that she was just a pathetic human. So, wanting to make my mum proud, I tortured her, along with the rest of the pack. She never had any friends, nobody to talk to, and I never did anything to protect her. I just joined along, hurting my baby sis. But now, I realise that it was the biggest mistake of my life. By the end, I was full-on crying. I don't expect her to come running back to me and accept me as her brother. But it hurts. The truth hurts. I looked up at Issa, and the only emotion present in her eyes was disgust. I stood up and walked to her, but she held up a hand, causing me to halt. I never, ever thought that you guys could do that to a poor girl. I thought you guys were the nicest people there could be on earth, but it turns out you're just a devil in disguise. You and everyone in that pack, she said, backing away from me. Her back hit the wall and she slid down, wrapping her hands around her knees tightly. I kneeled down beside her and whispered, "I love you, Issa. I could never do that to you. And what I did to Caroline, I deeply regret, and I promise you I will do anything to make up it to Caroline, even though I could never do enough to make up for those years of torture. I'll be the brother she needs, and she wants. I promise you." Wiping away her tears furiously, she stood up with new determination in her eyes and spoke in a confident voice. "That doesn't make anything better. You didn't think about even telling me up until now, when we met her. What if we hadn't, huh? Would you have never told me such a big part of your life? Even though I don't forgive you, doesn't mean that I will forget about my responsibility as beta female. I will be there alongside you in front of the pack, but other than that, we're done. We'll pretend to be happy in front of the pack, but apart from that, there will be nothing between us. Well, not until you earn the forgiveness of your sister." And with that, she left the room, and me. My heart broke, and all of a sudden, my world seemed a lot darker than before. Chapter 16. I didn't know if I wanted to go back home yet. It had been a few weeks since the concert, and since I'd met them again. I knew that Chris was desperately trying to get me to forgive him. And every time, I'd be so close to calling him again and telling him that I forgave him when I'd have another flashback again of what he'd done to me along with the rest of the pack. He sent me different flowers every single day with a personal message telling me to come home. And every day, I'd just ignore it. Howard had been trying to make some amends as well. So far, he'd sent me 2 letters telling me how much he'd regret everything and how much he needed me. The first one was just an ordinary letter saying that he was very sorry, and with it he sent a really expensive necklace. It was beautiful with a sapphire-shaped heart, with a silver frame around it, which was encrusted with diamonds. The words, "Caroline, forever and always," was engraved at the back. I hadn't worn it yet, but I have kept in the same royal blue box with a white bow tied around it that he sent. The second one was a poem. It really was a heartwarming poem, and it made me nearly tear up. It read, "I was thinking of you, how I missed your sweet kiss, and how I loved your precious smile. I was just thinking of you and your beautiful eyes. Just looking into mine, they'll tell no lies. I was thinking of you when I felt my heart ache. I wish I had your love, a love that will never break. I was thinking of you holding on to me, the way I felt, the way it could be. I was thinking of you to tell you I'd try, to give you pure love, till the day that I die. I was thinking of you letting me care of you. Just to let you know, I'll always be there whether you love me or not. I love you, Caroline. Forever and always. I sighed and made myself a cup of coffee. It was still around 9 o'clock in the morning, but Randy, Samantha, Terence and I were planning to go on a picnic. I hadn't been spending as much time as I wanted with my babies, so I was planning on taking them out. Since I couldn't exactly walk down the street to the local park, thanks to the paparazzi, I was taking them to Randy's house, which had a huge garden, big enough to be a park. Randy didn't live that far away from us, only about 30 minutes drive, but to be honest, neither of us were ever at home. We both travelled a lot because of our jobs, and we hardly ever got days when we could just chill out with our friends and family. Since I became famous, I moved to New York, as it was easier for my job. But this also meant that I couldn't meet up with Henry, Mia, Stella or Grace a lot, because they lived all the way in California. I missed them, and I would meet up with them sometimes, but not as much as I would have liked. I lived near the beach, so I had the perfect view of it from my massive glass window in my living room. I had a small 2-story house for me and the twins, but it was perfect. We had 5 bedrooms, which was more than enough, 1 indoor and 1 outdoor swimming pool, a huge living room and dining room, a kitchen and a game room, for when Henry and Randy were around. It was too much, but Randy persisted that it would be perfect for when the children are all grown up.